I'm going to show you a no-sew way to just embellish a t-shirt, make it more feminine, and you can either make it, this is a size too small for me, and I made it bigger. You can also reduce the size, but I'm just going to show you the simple way to make a t-shirt feminine. It doesn't matter whether it's a men's or women's t-shirt. Also, you can add this little detail to it very easily. I will show you both things. This is just an addition, and we'll get started. So this is a size small unisex t-shirt. I upcycle t-shirts. I get them from the secondhand store. I just happen to get these for $1.47 at Michael's, but this is a small and it's unisex. And what I did right here is I just cut out front and back. I cut off the collar, but then I cut the neckline to match. So I just cut along here both sides and made a front and back matching neckline. So I have two to work on. I can make them different if I want. It's just a simple way to do it. Okay, so what I have here is I have a variegated, oops, let me just show you. I have the Premier Home variegated, whoa, lots of, okay, it's a Premier Home variegated yarn, and it's just called Rainbow, and this is like 85% cotton, 50% polyester. I have found that even though the shirt is 100% cotton, ones that are less than 100% cotton that are really thin and not the heavy duty work for this better. I don't have any thin ones to work on right now. So now the great part about this is you can make the neckline as big or as small as you want. And I'm going to, since if this shirt were too big for me, I would make it would be different. This shirt is a little small for me in the shoulders, so what I did was I put the shirt, oops, I folded the shirt, let me see if I can get it in frame. I folded it shoulder to shoulder like this. Remember how we used to cut hearts in school, and we would fold our paper in half, and then we would cut hearts so that both of the sides were the same. This is all we're doing here, but we're going to make a line and draw a V. Now you don't have to do this. It's fine if it's rustic. Now you don't want to go too close to this shoulder here, to the sleeve. I've fringed the sleeve for later. You don't want to go too close to here. So you're going to want to leave enough of this. So just pick a spot. Pick a spot and we can trim off the rest. And you're going to go down to a V. And just get yourself a piece of chalk. You can use a fabric pencil, but just use a piece of chalk and draw it on there. And it doesn't necessarily have to come off. And get a sharp pair of scissors. And we're going to cut a straight line. Let me see. We're going to cut a straight line perpendicular to this. We're going to change it. We can change this collar later. But right now we're going to, let me see if I can get this. There we go. There we go. So we're going to do, get some scissors and make your line. And then I'll pause the video so we can, okay, begin cutting perpendicular and make sure that these are perpendicular. If you go at a little bit different angle than what I did, that's perfectly fine, but you want to make sure that these don't get smaller as they go towards here, and cut all the way up and go all the way to your line as far as you can. And just leave it like that. We can cut off more of the neckline if we want, but you need to do this first. Okay, and here's what we have. Now, this is how this turns out, and this will come off, of course. The chalk will come off. This is how this turns out. Now, we could go ahead and cut off this last part. We can just see how it turns out. Okay, so what we do next is we're going to pull out all of these. Now, a thinner t-shirt is going to work better for this. I'm going to pull out these, and many of you guys have seen this before, how to weave this. And we're just going to do a normal weave for one side of it. We're going to do a normal weave. And this is almost 100% no sew. You will sew down one tiny little thing, and that's it. So for those of you that don't like to thread needles, that don't like to sew, you're going to be, this is the thing for you. So I'm going to pull this out, and this is why a thinner shirt works. Don't cut them don't cut these strands any smaller than, oh, 1/3 of an inch. These are 1/3 of an inch, and a stretchier, thinner shirt, you're going to want at least 1/2 an inch. So pull these out, and we're going to go all the way down. Now I left a little room down here. We might do a little snip, but we're going to, how you do this, and we may cut this top part off. I don't know. It's easy to undo. I'm just going to leave it on for now. How you do this is you're going to want to take this strand and put it over, and then take the next strand and put it over. Oops, me being left-handed is getting in my way. Okay, let's start again. You take this strand and put it over, and then pull up this strand, and then put it over and pull up this strand, and then put it over and pull up this strand, put it over and pull up this strand. So we're just weaving this, and it's better if it's on someone to weave. So if you can put it on someone and weave it, it will work better. You see how this is giving me problems. I could put it on my mannequin, but you won't be able to see the detail. This is what it's doing. And see, I've got this one, and don't lose any. There's one right under here. Don't lose any. And put it over and weave it. Keep weaving. So if there's any confusion about this, there's tons of videos about this on the internet, and so just look it up if you need a refresher, if you can't see very well with mine, because mine is going to be more about the crocheting. So when I get to my very last loop, this is where I'm going to want to pin it down. This is where I'm going to use the safety pin and pin it down. And this will be the place where we might have to put the stitch. That's it. This is the only spot for that. And so at the most you're going to have one stitch. I'm going to leave this here so you can see, because we might do an extra weave on this. Oops. We might do an extra weave. That other one has a second weave on it that's a twist. So now this weave will naturally by itself work itself all the way over to here. And as it stretches out, as it washes, that's what it's going to do. This is not going to fray. So we're just all set. We have this part. Here, I got this one out. We got this part done. So the reason I did this is because it's really fast, and it gives you a place to crochet that you wouldn't have normally. And then I went ahead and went up the neckline here and just made a few little snips. You can use this if you don't have a rotary tool. You can just snip tiny little spots. So I'm going to go ahead and put some up this side, just tiny little snips if you don't have a rotary tool. I have a rotary tool, but I'll just show you I'm just going to show you how to put a tiny little snip, and just put them about the same distance apart that you did, because that's what we're going to need to crochet into. And I will show you how to do that to go all the way around to the back. Now we would do the same thing to the back, but I'm just going to show you how to start on this part, and like push these all the way over here. So just don't worry about these. If you see something that won't pull out, trim it carefully. If you see something that the scissors that you didn't cut really well. I'm left-handed. I broke my left-handed scissors, so I don't cut great, but see, this will just keep rolling over, and as you wash it, it's not going to fray, it's not going to do anything. So now if you're using variegated yarn, I always suggest to find the variegation that's closest to where you're going to start, to the picture, to the color. Now if you don't have a I do want you to do one little snip up here. I'm going to go into this snip right here, and I'm doing everything much bigger. You could go closer to the edge. I don't want these to pull out, but I made myself one little snip, but you could start right here, but it would slip down a little bit. You're still going to need one little snip for an anchor. So I'm going to cut off and go to the closest color I have to my shirt on this variegated yarn, or use a yarn that's the same color as a shirt, like the red one. You could always do it that way. So, oops, I'm sorry. I'm going to make a really quick slip knot. I should have not drank that tea. A little shaky from drinking that tea. Put the slip knot on your hook. And for those of you that are beginners, because this is a beginner project, just go pull this through and go through here, and that's where we're going to start. And that's our starting point. And then we're going to, I'm turning my work, turning it to the side so that I can work. So we're going to work just around here. But where we're going to work is the part that that we need a spot to work in. So for those of you that hate to sew, this kind of gives you some options. And so we're going to be working in this spot right, we're going to be working along these, not on this side of your weaving, not on this side, on this side. So you pulled up a loop and pull through another loop, and then I'm going to show you how to work through these. Now what we're going to do is we need to go across here, and we're using these strands as a loop to crochet in. That's all we're doing. It's nothing really fancy. So we're going to pull through that strand and single crochet, and then we're going to go to the next strand, and we're going to go underneath it, kind of fold it over, pull through a loop, and single crochet. You know what, I'm going to go, in case you're wondering, I used a really small 3.5 for that little snip part, but I didn't really need to. I just didn't want to pull it out. So I'm using a 4-weight worst weight yarn, and I'm using a 5.5 hook, so I'm having to switch. I cut my strands kind of big, so that's probably why. So now back to the 5, I pull through and single crochet. So I'm just pretending that each strand is a loop. Now I'm staying on this, see my weaving? I'm staying on this side of the weaving. So let's look at that again. If it's a little bit awkward, you're going to go through underneath, and it's like it's folded over the top. Your strand is folded over the top. You pull through a loop, just like you're single crocheting, and then pull through another loop, because you are single crocheting. So you're going to single crochet, but so you don't get lost and go someplace, you're just going to fold this over, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So you're pretending that this is 2 loops right here. You're using this as your foundation. Pull over, yarn over, pull over. One more time. Yarn over, pull over. Okay, so let's look and see what we have. And this variegated yarn is, it might look good, it might not. I like it to match. But this way, you know, if you use, this is a rainbow yarn, you know, this way you can wear it with kind of any bottom if you want. I wear these as casual shirts, but I guess it could be dressed up. Okay, so see our weaving is here, and we're crocheting over here. Okay, and we're going to, let me try and show you in a really big manner. Let's get really close, and then we're going to pull through here. We're staying on this, on the outside of the weaving. Pull through a loop and pull through a loop, and again, and over, pull through a loop, pull through a loop. We're going to go all the way down to our V. Okay, so keep crocheting, but stay on this side. Okay, move this over if you have to, but keep crocheting, using each one of these for 1 strand per stitch. I'm sorry, 1 strand per stitch, all the way down to here. I will meet you there. So I did 1 single crochet per strand all the way down to my safety pin, and the safety pins are working great for what we need. So just to hold it there, and then you've got more to stitch down than probably just that 1 loop. So that's why I'm just leaving it for now. So when we get down here, continue on around the V. But one thing that I'd like you to do is when we get down to our very last strand, as you can see, and here's the when you get down to the very last strand, chain 1, and then jump over to the other side and pick your very next strand on this side, and that's just going to mark it for you, and you can put a little cluster in there to make the V, because when you crochet, you can crochet any trim down here, but you are going to have to make some kind of shell or just a few double crochets into this stitch to make this corner to go over to the other side. So we're just going to single crochet up the other side. And remember, don't go on the inside of this. We're staying on this side of the weaving. I'm going to have you look again. On this side of the weaving, stay on this side. And so we're going to single crochet using these strands all the way up, and I will meet you at the top at this strand right here. Okay, I'm just going to show you this too, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that's had this happen too. It gets a little confusing as you get up here, and look how far away my stitches are from my line. That's not a mistake. That was just that's just how this material is until after it's stretched and washed. So I went up all the way. I got this last one. Now we are going to have to, unless we're working in the round, which what I did on the other one was I went ahead and put a couple of little snips up here, and then I started working. I cut this, and so I started working in the round, up one side and down the other. But that's how I did that. Let me get going on this just a little bit. Okay, so when you get here, you're going to need to push this all the way. These are good if these are a little bit tight, but you're going to need to push this. Oops. Oh, that wasn't very thoughtful. Okay, here we go. So this looks like it's messed up. It is not. See, these go all the way over here, and just arrange them, and then push this. Okay, let's see if we can get see how this is further away from. We need the stitch all the way up to this, to your mark. Okay, we need the stitch all the way up there. So we're going to just push the stitches. They're supposed to do this. This just kind of tightens it down. We're kind of using the stitches to lock it down, and we're using the weaving to lock the stitches down. So we're kind of using them both for both things. And see, I pushed it all the way over there, and then I pushed the weaving back. Whoops. So, and then this one, see how this one stayed over pretty well. It's just because I think which-handed. But see how these stitches are all the way up against where the fringes began to be cut. Just need to make sure that. Make sure your stitches, so they kind of help lock each other in place. I've had no problem with this in the washer or the dryer, really, but that's only because I used this yarn. If it were 100% cotton or a different yarn, I'd look on the instructions and see if it can be put in the dryer. I happen to use yarn that can. So you're gonna push these out so they line up here. Now I'm not going to work in the round this time. I'm just going to go back down and work in a trim. So that means I do have to do one more little snip because this would slide. To keep this from sliding, remember I started with a snip up here. I am going to need one more little snip, and see this line? You have the line up here, so just go right next to the line, sorry. Do a little snip. You can use a rotary tool if you want. You shouldn't need to. So, back to here. Let's find our snip. There's our snip. It's kind of far away, but I'm making everything bigger for you guys. And then I'm going to do a single crochet in this, and then I'm going to go back across here and here, and I'm going to crochet 1, 2, 3. Excuse me, let me double check this. 2, 3. I'm going to turn my work, and now it's just normal crocheting except to make it lay flat. We're going to do something a little bit different to make it lay flat. I'm going to start making V stitches, but I'm not going to start until I'm going to skip one stitch. This is the same stitches as my chain 3. So I'm going to skip a stitch, and then I'm going to go to make this lay down this way on the garment. Oops, let me show you. To make it lay this way on the garment, I'm going to go in the back loop. Okay, so same stitch, skip a stitch, and I'm going to do a double crochet, chain 1, and another, oh sorry, that wasn't in the back loop, and that will make it lay down. I'm sorry. Skip a stitch, same stitch, skip a stitch, and I'm going to do this all in the back loop. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet to make a V stitch. And then I'm going to skip one stitch again, and in the back loop, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now I like using solid colors instead. I just wanted to see how this turned out. I don't know, you can see the patterns a little bit prettier. It looks a little lacier. And if you find that this isn't giving you enough, if you find that instead of chaining in between, you don't want to chain in between these stitches. If they're tightening things, making things gather too much, This one isn't, but if it were gathering too much, just use a bigger hook. Make your stitches a little bit looser. We just don't want to chain between these two. When we did our initial foundation chain, chaining in the middle gives gaps. It doesn't look very nice. So again, back loop, we're going to put a V-stitch in the back loop all the way down to the V of the neck, all the way down to your whatever you put in here to hold this, down to your safety pin. Every other back loop, we're going to put a V-stitch all the way to your safety pin. Okay, here's the thing to double check is it's a little hard to see your stitches with this first foundation row, so I just counted the V stitches before this cluster, and I'm going to make sure there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I'm not sure where to stop here. If I need a double crochet to match this side or what. So I'm counting 1, there's 1 V-stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 on the other side of this cluster. This variegated yarn is hard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know I need to skip 1 and do 1 more and back loop. And because where you start, it's always, look at this, it's always a little bit messy. And so I need to put a double crochet in this little snipped area up here, but it kind of disappears on you. So I'm just going to put a double crochet right here, and we're going to call that good. So now, next we're just going to put a simple, like with this cluster here, we're going to add that to, we're going to turn our work, we're going to add that to it, and then we're done with this part. So I'm going to slip stitch over to this very first V, the middle of this very first V. I did a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 2, and then because it's going to V down a little bit also, it's going to taper down this way. Now I'm going to put a cluster, which is 2 double crochets in the chain 1 space of the previous row. See how I go down and then down, and then I'm going to put a cluster in here, chain 1, and then 2 double crochets, and pop. Okay, let's, I decided to change this and to make it more open and lacy. I'd forgotten what I'd done on the other one. I put in it, so I chain 2, slip stitch over to this, to the first chain one space of the V from the previous row, and then I'm going to do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet to the top of the next V, to the chain 1 space of the next V. I changed my mind on that too, sorry about that. I've done a bunch of tops lately and I couldn't remember which one I'd done. Alrighty, well, this will be easy to remember. Double crochet, chain 1, and then anchor it to the V-stitch. Chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and anchor it to the very next the top of the very next V-stitch. So it's just it's just a simple open weave with a double crochet and a chain 1. That's all this is. So let's do one more since I probably confused everybody. This feels really nice. It's very soft. So we're going to do, we chain 1 in between everything. So we chain 1, and in the top of the V-stitch, whoops, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. So let's talk about what we have here, just in case you got lost, because I always do. Okay, so we have in between, on using these V-stitches as our base, in between all our V-stitches, we have a chain 1 right here, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, then we anchor it in the middle, right here, the V-stitches in the middle. It'll be real roughly if you actually put one of these in every V-stitch, which would be fine to do too. Just any trim you like. This is the time to use it and play around with it, because after this row we're done. So, and then in the middle of each little cluster we anchor it and chain 1, and then double, and then when we get down to the V, this is the V. Oops, me being left-handed is not benefiting me. This is the V, this is the bottom. To make this curve, we've got to add more in here. So we won't get around it if we don't. It won't lay flat. It'll bunch up. So we've got to add quite a bit to make this curve. So we're going to double crochet in between here. Okay, right here, like it's a V-stitch. We're going to put 2 double crochets. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to add a cluster of double crochet, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to put 2 double crochets right here in between this. In between this cluster here. And you can do this any way you want if you don't like this pattern. This is just how I happen to want this to look, and it makes it lay flat. See? It'll make it lay flat. So use your trim, but make sure it lays flat. If it doesn't, go back and you need to add a little more stitches to this V right here. You need to add a little more, and that's all you need to do. So here we chain 1, and then we're back to our regular pattern. This very first one, we're going to put a single crochet, chain 1, and then in the very next one we do our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and a pattern of 3 in there. So we have 3 double crochets with a chain 1 in between everything. We chain 1, and then we anchor it with a single crochet. So here we're starting back at our pattern. Here we did a cluster of things, and we're just back at our same pattern with 3 double crochets with a chain 1 in the middle, and then a single crochet anchoring it with a chain 1 on each side. We're going to work back up to the top, and I will meet you there. Okay, we're back up at the top, and then I had to look and make sure that I matched the other side, because we didn't start coming straight off this, off this way. We tapered, and so we're tapering this side a little bit. So I just looked, and here's what I have, and then I have double a chain 2 and anchored it there. So we want to do the same thing on this side. So I chained 1 here, and I'm going to chain another one, and then I'm going to anchor it right here with a slip stitch, and then just cut your yarn, bring it through, and tie it off. Okay, so we have the front done, and this is all you need to do, is just this right here. You don't have to do the back like I did. I just wanted to show it in two different ways. Now this helps if this is on someone to do this next part, but I will show you how to do the extra part in the middle. Now see, arrange these so they're pushed all to one side like this. Now this part, you can see this online too. We're really done with the crocheting part, and this is just an extra added bonus, and keep this here because you're going to need that there. So this part, you're going to take this and you're going to turn this, okay? You see, I just have it turned. It's not a knot, I just have it turned. This is our very top one. Then I'm going to bring this through that turn. And there's faster ways to do it. If you have problems, go online, it shows you. And then I have a loop here, and I'm going to turn it. And just make sure whichever way you turn it that way every time. Then bring through the very next strand and turn it. Now try to go down the middle of this. Like I said, this is better. I've even put them on a pillow to do this before. Now bring through this loop, and I'm turning it the same way, okay? I turned to the right every time, so I'm turning to the right, and then bringing through the very next strand, and I'm turning to the right. Now whichever way you start to turn, you need to continue it that way. Bring it through, turn it to, then turn it to the right, okay? And bring through the next strand, and it's going to get harder as you get it down, and turn it to the right. And then the next strand, and this, just keep at it. Even if it gets harder, use your crochet hook, turn it to the right. You could reach through and pull up your next strand, but just make sure you turn it to the right, or which, you know, I'm just turning it to the right so you guys can see. And that's how you get that center braid. Now watch, now you're going to want to, see how I'm having problems? Just push them to the side and find your strands, because you need to get down as far as you possibly can. And don't be afraid, this stuff really isn't going to break. Turn it to the right and get your strands all the way down. Okay. Bring it through. Whichever way you turned it, turn it to the right. Okay, and that makes it really pretty braid, and it actually can make, especially if the top is too big or you make the shoulders too far, this will bring it in some more, but it just adds some more fun detail. And here is, try and get this strand. If you push these apart, you'll be able to get it. Try and get this last strand and push it up through. And this one you don't have to turn when you get your very last strand. Sorry, this is not easy for me either. Okay, here's my very last strand. Okay, and see how pretty this is. Now this is also why we have this chain one right here. Remember this chain one that we did when we rounded that corner? Go through to the other side. See here, and this, and then you can put this right through here, and you are done. Let me show you how pretty this looks. I didn't expect it to quite look like that, but you're done. This stretches out like this, and see how you can pull this. You can pull this so it's braided down the middle. And this will just stay like this. You don't need to do anything to it. When you wash it, it just kind of binds together and stays like that. And these frays end up going away. You won't end up seeing them. Everybody's going to see the pattern. You get lots of compliments. It's kind of fun. And then what you do down here, you're going to You're going to weave in your ends. They're tied off securely. Weave in your ends. And then where this is, sew over it first. Sew over it first. It's just going to be a few quick stitches. Sew over it first and then take out your safety pin. Your safety pin is going to be your best friend on this. So that's it. That's how this pretty top is done, and just it's going to look a little different than what a lot of people are wearing. It'll be your own. It'll be unique from everybody else's. So just have fun with this. Enjoy it. Let me know how it goes. And like I said, I can you can look in another video and see how you just go across here. But you just you would make your same strips, and then you would just need little snips to move across here. And so how you would do that is you would cut straight across here like this, cut this off, make little snips to travel over here, and you could go down the other side, and you can make the back in a different color. You could just trim the back. You can do anything you want. I like to make really deep V's in the back. I think that's a lot of fun, and you don't have to crochet it if you don't want to. I just like to because I like the way it lays really nice and it stays put. Have fun.